50 years ago, financial markets was chaos. The trading was so inefficient that one day an association gathered together in New York and wanted to change and make it a more clear and transparent financial system. They created an association called NASDAQ. Well, in the crypto industry, it's a very fragmented market as well. It's a very inefficient one as well. There's a lot of different exchanges. It's very complicated to get the right prices.
And you remember the last time you tried to buy your favorite token? Because I can tell you it was painful, it was time-consuming. I had to figure out which exchange I need to use. It was almost impossible to compute my fees. So guess what? I just gave up.
There's a need of this NASDAQ 2.0 with blockchain.
We are proud and excited to introduce you to the SwissBorg Smart Engine. It is now possible for anyone in the world to buy his favorite token with any cryptocurrency or any currency of his choice.
The Smart Engine simplifies and optimizes trading of crypto assets on multiple exchanges within a fraction of a second, and does this from a single institutional-grade platform.
One of the biggest frustrations of both traditional investor and crypto investor is the concept of pair trading. With the Smart Engine, we are removing all the limitation of pair trading by creating synthetic routes that give anyone the opportunity to buy their favorite token with no limitation.
For example, your Swiss francs would be converted into US dollars. Those same US dollars will then be converted into Bitcoins. Those Bitcoins will then be converted into Dash. All this complex trading system is done actually in a few milliseconds in our Smart Engine.
The Smart Engine is solving one of the major problems in the crypto investment sphere as of today. Think about it. How many exchanges do you have on your Google Authenticator? Some 5, 8, 9, 12. And if you go back, 2FA, password, placing an order, withdrawing, going to another exchange, how long does that take you? What if you could do that in milliseconds?
By aggregating multiple order books on multiple exchanges, we can access more liquidity than any single exchange. Whether you want to buy 100 Bitcoins or 10 euros, you can always get the best price execution.
2 years ago, we felt the urge to merge the off-chain world and the on-chain worlds. Well, today, inspired by the greatest financial institutions, we have created the Smart Engine.
What's up, beautiful burgers? Wow, I have goosebumps from that video. That was back in 2019, Nicolas. Can you imagine that our vision and roadmap has essentially not even changed? How are you doing today?
Amazing. So good to see you today, Alex.
Great to see you, Nicolas.
Yeah, that video still gives me goosebumps. Amazing.
What a video, what a video. By the way, you look very cozy, Nicolas. What are you wearing today? Can you show us?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking that like we were seeing like a very snowy environment today. I've heard that there is some risk of avalanche even today. So I was like, better get warm.
Don't give it out. Don't give it out. Probably people have not guessed yet what we're going to announce, but probably, yes, you all have. Une avalanche de bonnes nouvelles. Go. It's good to see you guys. Shin, Germany, Nico Knut, Romain, Dennis, Thomas, Hans. Great to see you guys. Wow, everyone's on fire. Mickey, Ivy, Sandro, Lendo, Chris.
Yes,
great to
the
see
entire
all these
team.
beautiful faces. It's incredible, Nicolas, right? We've been seeing these faces since day one, right? We did our ICO in 2017, and we still have the same people supporting us. It feels like a family, doesn't it?
This crew that is supporting us from the last 7 years, there are us that like there are these people that are making us move forward continuously. And so a big thank you to all of you.
A big thank you to all of you. I just
best.
saw Rui, Dinesh. Guys, without you, SwissBorg would not exist today. We would have went bust back in 2019. We would have not achieved what we have achieved today. We would not have 850,000 KYC users. We would not have more than $2 billion of assets under management, and we wouldn't be alive. So thanks to you all for supporting us up until now. And today, Nicolas, I guess, what is our goal today? Are we trying to explain the vision, reinforce it? What do you think is the main goal today?
The main goal today is going to explain how we're continuing this new vision that like we started by in 2017. And yeah, it's a big milestone. It's a big milestone in our vision.
It's a big milestone, and I think, Nicolas, you would agree. You know, when you're trying to innovate in technology, it's so hard to have a clear roadmap because you're kind of going through undiscovered frontiers, undiscovered paths. So it's really hard for us to share these visions until we actually achieve it, right?
Exactly, and it's very difficult to explain because here we're not copying anyone, and we are really pioneering something that is different. And as such, it's not necessarily easy for everyone to kind of like click, and see what we meant and where we're going. So exciting to reveal today what's happening.
Amazing. So let's jump into the slides right away because we have a very exciting schedule for you all, guys. So without further ado, let's move on to the first slide here. So the first question for the newbies out here, is SwissBorg a SEX? Are we a centralized exchange? No, as you can see here with this crazy GIF, which reminds me of one of Steve Jobs' Apple convention shows, right? But
Yeah.
what do we mean by not being a SEX, right? And here today, we want to show you all how we're very proud, we're very excited to share the future with you today on Jan 21st and talk about what we call the multi-chain MEX. But what is a MEX? A meta exchange, it's pretty hard to understand. So maybe a best way to start is to compare ourselves with a SEX. So Nicolas, from your perspective, and as you said, it's very hard to explain these things in a very simple way. But when you compare SwissBorg, the meta exchange, with a centralized exchange, are there any outliers that stand out to you?
Yeah, so the first part, and I'm going to start by the right, is that it goes from the ethos and what we're trying to do, right? And so our thing and how we see blockchains world in general, right, is that we don't want to reproduce what existed before. And so typically traditional world is all a execution venue and systems that were owned by corporation. And what blockchain introduced is the decentralization of that to come on public ledger. And so this is what we are embracing and this is what we want. So we are working with the best blockchains in the space. And this is a huge differentiator compared to Binance and Coinbase that you highlight here, where they're recreating their own world, their own blockchains, and they're putting part of their business on it. And that's a huge difference. And as you put it also on the slides, Alex, is we don't have a private order book, right? So we go trade directly on chain with the MEX and execute on DEX. And so this means that everybody fights for the best technology, for the best spreads, the best order book, and we're here to aggregate it and offer it to our users.
Thank you so much. That is so well explained. And I'd love to ask you, Nicolas, obviously many centralized exchanges have their own custody, which we don't do at SwissBorg. We use Fireblocks, we segregate assets. So we'll never end up being a Celsius or an FTX or all these scams, right? But obviously some of these exchanges have a Web3 wallet as well. Is that Web3 wallet same as a Phantom? Are there any advantages, or is it same as just opening up a MetaMask account?
So yeah, they do have their Web3 wallets that are very good in some sense to work on their blockchain and can be used on some others. But then you have the entire cross-chain mechanism that becomes quite complex. And at the end, the usability getting lost. One of the things that we've seen is that when you're working within a single blockchain, things are very good, but once you start to have multiple, it gets complicated to know on which blockchains are my assets and how do I go from one to the other. And so this is a problem that we're solving and making it very easy for people. And what we've seen also is that while self-custody is great, there is also some usability problems. And our solution is at the moment very good for kind of not having to worry about backups or having your private key being stolen. And yeah, so.
Thank you so much for explaining that. That makes a lot of sense. So for all you out there listening, essentially what we look at the centralized exchanges is they want to own all the market share in everything they do. They want to own the blockchain that rules the world. They want to own the exchange that rules the world. They want to own the Web3 wallet, which connects to their blockchain, but they're not building on a modular level. Is that correct, Nicolas? They're not building and helping the ecosystem. They're just trying to take over, essentially.
You're completely summing it up. It's just they're building a tower where everything belongs to them and they can control and do everything they want in this part. And it's not like an open philosophy where we could see that like in open source or in core blockchains like in the pioneer days, right? And this is what we would like to kind of change.
So you guys can see here, everyone knows that CeFi and DeFi is going to merge at one point. There's going to be a crossroad and hybrid model. And as you can see on the custody side, maybe SwissBorg is a bit behind the big players like Binance or Coinbase. However, on the execution on the yield layer, we are focusing on transactions that are public, transparent, and happen on chain. And as you can see here, instead of running our own chain, we go multi-chain and we're helping the ecosystem rather than trying to own everything ourselves. So let's look at what are the limitations of a private order book, because we have that as our second component here, Nicolas. And I think there are many things that us, the community, really need to understand. So here on the left, we have the devilish world. Oh, ha, ha, ha. So let's talk about what's wrong with private order books and what's wrong with the overall concept.
Yeah, I would say it's the entire model. It's more than like just the order book, right? But like I would say it's the classic playbook from like previous cycles where we saw that like deals that were all private and then launching on a low float and then IFDV being able to dump then on everybody and having full control as like you get the supply, you can kind of like more influence the price. And private market makers that are having deals that are like not visibles. And then those order books, like how we learned later on with the disaster of FTX, right? Alameda had like a different access than like players playing on it. And so it is absolutely not the same as when you execute on a DEX where you can inspect and then fight for your transactions to come first. And so it's then like a technological questions, and it's not like an agreements and ends that are being shaken in the dark.
And that is a key point, guys, in the dark. And obviously these illustrations are a bit exaggerated. Not all centralized exchanges are this evil, but there are some many shady players in the industry, guys. Don't get me wrong. There are people who are charging crazy fees for listings, who are asking for a security deposit, who are taking a percentage of your supply and dumping it in their own discretionary manner. Yeah, go for it.
And
Nicola.
it's what we've seen in the past, right, Alex? It's like as you and me that have been discussing with so many people trying to build in the space, and that like are forced to raise a lot of cash to then just basically give it to centralized exchange to be able to have their token traded. And so then because they do that, they don't own their community and they don't own like their trading, which basically when you go on DEX, you're completely changing that. And you can have your community, you have control over your own destiny. And this is the world that we want to do and that we want to see. And we want to help builders do that with our new architecture. As I was tweeting it the other day, is like the SwissBorg way in 3 acts, right? We start with WorkPad, and then the entire journey happened on chain until the listing on SwissBorg.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And just a quick question, everyone. Do you have your drinks ready in front of you guys? Are you drinking wine, beer, tea, coffee? Please show us
I'm on tea.
some green hearts. Show us some love here in the chats. But if I can summarize everything, Nicolas, from the user standpoint, the private order book is bad because we have many of them and it fragments liquidity. And that means that the end user has a bad UX, a bad user experience. Is that correct, Nico? Because you have to use all these different...
It's just that like ultimately, when all projects are forced to go on that, this has deep implications to all projects. If like, you want to be listed on a certain platform and you need to provision 500,000, 1 million to be able to participate in that, of course, it is going to influence on the capacity of that project to deliver, because it's investments that is not going towards R&D and the product. And this is without counting some extra fees that are coming from market making and so on and so forth. And so there is another world that is all on chain with DEX. If you can pick it up here, Alex.
Yes, absolutely. And I just wanted to share on top of that. So it's really bad from our standpoint because it hurts the UX. It makes it troublesome, lots of time. We waste a lot of time. But on top of that, from an ecosystem standpoint, as you guys can see, monopolize the value. What we mean by that, Nicolas, is instead of having, let's say, 75% of all AVAX trading volume through these private order books, shouldn't that volume be on chain on LFJ, Faro Exchange?
Absolutely. This is what we want to see. We want to see more and more volume coming on chain. Yeah, I mean, it's a big realization from that cycle, right? I remember when Uniswap came online, I wasn't sure, is this going to take some market share? Is this going to work? Because Ethereum mainnet was super restrictive. There was not that much capacity. And so it was easy to see okay, on trading, you need so much capacity in terms of TPS and so on and so forth. And now what we see is that over the last years, so many blockchains have gone through massive R&D and have accelerated on many fronts that makes it now trading on chain is becoming a reality. We've seen this weekend again, and there are a lot of examples that show that there is a trend.
Which is coming up next. So don't jump the gun.
Yeah. I'm not dropping the gun. It's and so I would say unified liquidity on chain now is going to be a big topic, and I think it's a trend that you can't ignore. We're living in an age of an exponential age where we see that why aren't there so many people trading on, not so many companies trading on the NASDAQ? Well, because it's very costly to come to NASDAQ trading. Launching a token has a cost that goes to zero. And it means that myself can launch a token, which means that if there is this possibility, there is new use cases that are going to come and people using it. So at the moment, we see meme coins that are driving the innovation on trading. But as we've seen through so many times, through so many industries, it's not necessarily the first use case that is going to become the bigger, but because there are meme coins, they are driving the creation of the trading infrastructure, and this one will be reused for some other use case that are going to come after. And all that rhythm of innovation is going to be the best way to bring all the liquidity on chain. I'm
Exactly. So for all those who want to understand what the future will look like when all this liquidity goes on chain, thanks to a meta exchange like SwissBorg, is simply we're unifying the liquidity. We're bringing it in a way where your user experience will be super simple. You'll be able to cross-chain, use all these tools at the tip of your fingers, but also we're bringing back the value to where it deserves to be. The on-chain dApps, the ecosystem on-chain, the blockchains, and not a private order book. So enough with the theory. Let's look at the numbers to see if this is actually true. So what do you see here, Nicolas, that really stands out?
Yeah, well, what is very massive is that if we look at the DEX to SEX ratio, is that DEX are closing the gap slowly but surely. It's a trend that is very solid. We see that it's not just a temporary thing. It's not a hype. It's not just something that is going to disappear. So DEX have been grinding up and taking more and more market shares of SEX. The reason for that is that it started, as I said, with Uniswap that really took the long tail of assets. They were not so good on deep liquidity and performance and so on and so forth. But the number of assets that is listed on Uniswap, it completely exploded and made it that no other centralized exchange could, have a proposition against that. And then slowly but surely, as all blockchains are progressing, they're going up that chain. And they are more and more capable of offering deeper liquidity, more trading volume. And this is the trend that we're starting to see. And so a lot of people are going to realize that now. And so why are you going to pay fees when you can just launch on chain, own your community, be in direct contact with your users, skip so many fees that you can then reinvest in your product, in your R&D. And this is a new model. And I would say I just kind of talked about it before. I said this weekend we saw an amazing event. Donald Trump launched a meme coin, and this one exploded all the numbers in terms of trading on chain. And so the president of the United States is showing us the path, right? It's just saying that, like, well, if you need to launch a token, launch it on chain. This is what you do. And this is the new meta that a lot of people haven't catch up with, but it's a trend. And we're there.
And we're going in that direction, right, Nico?
We're
That's the
going in that
beautiful part.
direction.
Yeah, we're going to support that movement. As you guys can see here on some of these graphs, DEX versus SEX spot trading volume is roughly 20 to 80. So we've already achieved 20%. And I want to really stress one incredible figure here in the bottom right corner, Nicolas, which is Hyperliquid had $21 billion of 24-hour trading volume, which is, as of today, Bybit and Coinbase combined on chain. So this is not a lie, right? This is a fact. This is where the future is going to be, right?
This is the future.
Fantastic.
And there is more ecosystems that are going to launch. There is so much R&D happening at the moment. I am very excited by the future of blockchains.
And I'm very excited by the future of SwissBorg. If you guys are excited, show us some hearts, show us some green hearts, some love, some firecrackers, whatever you want. And without further ado, let's go to the next section, which is the vision. And the vision for many out there has been really hard to grasp. And to be very honest, guys, it's been hard for Nicolas. It's been hard for myself. It's been hard for Cyrus. So if you guys sometimes thought, I don't really understand the vision of SwissBorg, to be fully transparent, we didn't either, right, Nico?
We didn't. It's just that, like, you start a journey and then you see things that, like, don't make sense. And all of a sudden you have a new idea that you go and explore, right? And it's those kind of things. I remember when I called you and I was like, Alex, we're going to trade on DEX. And you were like, but Nico, it doesn't exist. and I remember after me pitching for 5 minutes, you were like, holy moly, I think I now understand. And it's this kind of things, right? It's like sometimes there's things that are hidden in plain sight and that, like, it takes time to click. And that was the exact same thing here. It's like, it took us a bit of time, but I think we're arguably the first one to really fully embrace that vision. And I think today is a big milestone for that.
And I remember that conversation that was in late 2019, I believe, where we had the vision, obviously not the tech yet. But I remember you telling me this, Nicolas. And this slide, which looks a little bit like psychedelics, by the way, but this slide essentially, guys, will tell you everything that happened at SwissBorg tech-wise from 2019 to 2025. So the first vision, Nicolas, do you remember you guys were building smart order routing, which would fetch the best prices and do automated arbitrage in one tap across 5 sexes. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct. And it's the only router that exists on top of SEX that is available for everybody.
Exactly. Because the hedge funds use it, family offices
hedge funds use it. And, like, do you remember the first comments that we got? Yeah. There was a lot of people, like, from Switzerland, from Singapore, from places that were like, your thing is so good. Why me as a professional, I can't have access to that?
Yeah.
And we upsetted some people because they were like, what? An open app for everybody can have more feature and better performance than a professional system. And that was the first vision. But then as the time passed, we started to see the limitation of that. We saw that, like, the SEX were not playing like a game that was fair with us.
Yeah,
they didn't want to share trading, and we started to see that like, hey, blockchain here is reproducing the same kind of problems that we have in traditional finance, where everything is segregating and everyone fighting for their own turf. We felt like this kind of open finance system that we keep on pitching originally, and that was the core vision of crypto, right? And this is why we were like, we need to have this open system. If we can't build on top of like our execution venue, what are we doing, right? We need to be
100%.
working together.
Absolutely. And that's where that was the next step where we thought, okay, we need to build something that's better than sex, CEX, of course. And we did the aggregation on Solana, right? I think up until today, we have
Yeah,
6
exactly. And so
6
I would say, you know, we saw the lights in the dark, because Solana originally was very associated with FTX. And while Project Serum was like absolutely amazing from a technical standpoint, and so was Solana, I would say we were kind of like suspicious and didn't really know on how this is going to go, because like the stake of FTX was so big on Solana. Project Serum was driven by FTX, and so we didn't really know if this would be like the same kind of things as we said originally, right? Is this going to be a corporate chain? And then like one of the darkest moments in crypto happened. FTX collapsed, the scam was discovered and all the stuff. And that was actually the liberating moment for Solana, because then Solana was not a corporate chain. And this is where we saw the light in the dark. And this is where we were like, well, now I guess we can go. That amazing technology is now free for everybody to build upon. And Project Serum was forked within a month, with the creation of Open Book, and all the other decks continue to innovate and stand up, and this is where we come.
Yeah, I still remember it very vividly, where you guys talking about, wow, look at this club, and look, their APIs, and look, we can use our code and put it into Rust instead of Scala. And I remember the excitement. I was there at the office, and it was really a breakthrough. And I guess a lot of people are wondering right now, what is next though? We bridged, of course, the Borg token. We took some really bold moves, Nicolas. We literally deliberately delisted from some exchanges because we don't want the market makers to market make our token, make it a stable coin. We liberated our Borg. We brought some utility on chain in addition to the in-app utility. And then, yeah, go for it.
There's been like a couple of very contrarian moves, right, Alex? Because I said it's like it was in the dark. It was like post FTX, and everyone was like, "Are you guys silly? You didn't see the memo that Solana is going to collapse?" And we're like, "No. Here the tech is amazing," and we went on building on there. And we brought our token, and people were like, "But are you silly? You don't want to have like sex?" We're like, no. We want to go full on DEX. And so a complete contrarian approach.
Yes.
And today we're taking it to another part of the universe.
We're going to be the pioneers in this, and I'm really, really excited. And so this essentially, guys, is the meta exchange. So now you can understand what's the difference between a centralized exchange, a SEX, and a meta exchange, a MEX. But it does not end here. So what is the next step? Which planet of this beautiful DeFi on-chain universe are we visiting next? Before we touch upon that, I'm going to ask here, Nicolas, why not Ethereum? Why not Arbitrum? Why not Base, Nicolas? Tell me why?
So like, SwissBorg did an ICO on Ethereum. Our token is based on Ethereum. Ethereum is like the reason why I'm in crypto, and so many people are in crypto. And so I would say we deeply love Ethereum. Now, unfortunately, Ethereum hasn't progressed over the last couple of years in as fast as it could. And the technical limitation in terms of throughput, finality are quite substantial. So the scaling of Ethereum, the plan is to go through L2s. So you would ask, why not? Okay, we get it. Ethereum mainnet is too slow. It doesn't work. Gas fees are too high. It doesn't work. But why don't you just use an L2? I've had like some experience with L2s. So the thing is that like L2s are amazing on the paper. And it's just that like when you want to build an integration such as ours, you need to look at the time to finality, and each L2 are currently settled on the Beacon chain on Ethereum that has like 14 minutes of settlement time. And so that is an issue for us. And it's still an open R&D topic. so that like we can figure out how we manage the risk, but we don't want to degrade our user experience in the app. What we've done with Solana was like you open SwissBorg and you have the exact same UX as we were capable of having on SX. And this is something that like we are not ready to compromise. And so this is why today the announcement is not going to be around that.
Absolutely. Perfectly said. And sorry for challenging you there, Nicolas. I'm sure we would have those questions anyways, right? So it's good that you answered them. So without further ado, should we reveal? And I think many people probably have already guessed, unfortunately, Nicolas. But which is the next major L1 chain that is EVM compatible?
That is
Ba-dam!
boom.
Boom! Avalanche! Yeah! Here we go, guys. Send us some hearts. Also, red hearts for Avalanche, green hearts for SwissBorg. This is the future, guys. This is the future. So before actually inviting the Ava Labs and Avalanche Foundation crew to speak here as well, because they're also friends of ours, I would love to quickly move into the reasoning on why Avalanche, in addition to why not Ethereum base and Arbitrum. And Benji, if you can bring on along the Avalanche crew here, would be great to have them. They can even comment with us. Breevy, thanks so much for joining us, brother.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
This is a great everybody.
Hello. So happy
you guys
to have you here with us.
All right. And then Eric, guys, if you have anything if you want to chime in, anything you want to add based on like Nicolas' external and maybe less biased, point of view, feel free to interject anytime on those slides. If you can bring back those slides, Benji, and then Nicolas, go for it, buddy.
Yeah, it's just like I feel like I still don't have all the secrets. Been talking to a lot of you, trying to understand like the in and outs of Avalanche, and I've been a big fan. I follow Avalanche since the beginning, and I'm quite familiar with the ecosystem. And I would say you guys had like a huge event that was called Avalanche 9000 in December, and this is like a very important piece of infrastructure and upgrade for plugging the max that make it possible, because like there is a drop in gas fees that makes it that like we can keep that UX, that we can keep everything that is happening. And Avalanche is an ecosystem that is very open, where everybody can launch their L1 super easily. That makes that like there is new use case that are going to come on Avalanche, such as game, RWA, whatsoever, and they're all going to be able to be traded on the seed chain, which then the results can be enabled in SwissBorg. There is a massive increase of user activity, net flows over the last days because of that upgrade and all the activity happening. There is Suzaku that is taking the risk-taking narrative on Avalanche and going to make those L1 launch super easy. And there is things that like, are the engineering wet dreams that like we all drool when we are seeing any kind of news about like Hyper SDK, that is really going to be able to kind of like put you in the forefront of the best blockchain with like the improved performance with VRIX. That is really state of the art, and we all understand that like this is very complicated to do. And like the last teaser that like you put on Twitter with the proof of concept of an EVM capable of 20,000 TPS with that Hyper SDK, I mean, it's pretty clear about like where you guys are going and why this is great for SwissBorg.
Awesome, guys. So, dear Avalanche team, do you guys want to chime in, add any comments on that? Obviously, Eric, you also wanted to kind of bring us through maybe even the bare bones, the basics of the Avalanche ecosystem. But if there's anything you want to add on top of what Nicolas just said, go for it, guys.
No, I think you guys covered it well. Probably better than we could have. Thanks for that intro. I did prepare a few slides, just covering like the basics of the Avalanche platform, the architecture, and some of our partnerships. Is it cool if I share my screen?
Go for it, Eric. Grace the stage.
Let me get it going.
That was pretty good, huh, Brevi, Daniel? Are you impressed by Nicolas? He's been following you guys very closely for the past 2 years. Are you guys impressed, or?
I am wildly impressed.
Very impressed. Very impressed.
I'm wildly. I love the presentation. Like it was like watching a movie, baby.
Awesome. We should make some movies here.
Thank you.
You guys heard it here first. AVAX and SwissBorg movie coming soon.
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, Giga, great to see you here, brother. You got the slides, Eric? Good to go?
Yeah, I'm presenting it. It's on
So,
in the corner of the.
Who's building the Netflix on-chain on Avalanche? Netflix L1. And then like the first movie we have it.
Oh, that would be perfect. You know what? Hey, we just gave the audience out there actually an idea if no one's already building.
Yeah. Don't you guys have like an incentive program for that? I feel like it's the right moment to apply with that idea, no?
Pitch those ideas.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, there is no Netflix,
right.
but there is an OnlyFans, on-chain OnlyFans thing.
Yeah.
It shows you where our priorities are. All right. Do you guys see the slides on the screen?
All good.
All right. Awesome. So these slides just cover like a general overview of the Avalanche platform. So Avalanche is the fastest smart contracts platform in the industry today, as measured by time to finality. That's enabled by our unique Avalanche consensus, which allows any number of validators to finalize transactions on the network in anywhere from 1 to 2 seconds, depending on how the blockchain is configured. And this, to your point earlier, Alex, this is compared to Ethereum's, current 6 to 12 minutes. It's a vast improvement. Avalanche by default, the C chain as well as most of the layer ones are EVM compatible. So all the developer tooling on the EVM are, you can use it directly on Avalanche. And right now the network has 16,000 validators. But with Avalanche consensus, you can scale to any number of validators. So our ecosystem currently it consists, across the board. We cover all the verticals from DeFi to institutional use cases, enterprises, games, you name it. There's about 1,000 live applications and more in the pipeline. So moving on, so this is just a general overview of the architecture, and I'll dive into like specific components here later on in the slides. So at the very top, we have the primary network, which consists of 3 chains, the P, X, and C chains. The P chain, it coordinates validators, it creates new L1s on Avalanche, as well as manages the interoperability between L1s. And then you have the X chain, which is kind of like the bridge in the middle between the P chain and the C chain. It's a very high throughput chain. It's not even compatible. It uses its own UTXO model, which you might be familiar, with other kind of DAG-based chains. And then last but not least, we have the C chain, which is where, a lot of the dApps are deployed. I believe that's where SwissBorg, you guys will be hooked up to initially. And that's where, most of the DeFi ecosystem is. A lot of the social fi apps like the Arena, as well as games. Now, what's really interesting is on Avalanche, apart from these 3 chains, you can also build your own custom blockchains. So we call them Avalanche L1s, and these chains, you can configure them any number of ways, and I'll cover that a little bit in more detail later on the slides. So this slide just covers is a comparison of Avalanche's C chain, the prime as part of the Prime network to other blockchains out there. As you can see, it scales up to we've seen it hit 170 TPS in production. So as you can see, it's very comparable to a lot of the newer networks out there. Significantly better than Ethereum, but ETH is a little outdated as of this time. Finality under a second usually. But it just depends on the block times. I would say right now on the C chain it's about 2 seconds. It's energy efficient, as with most of the proof of stake networks. And as I said before, there's about 1,600 validators on the network, but it can scale pretty much infinitely without degradation of performance. So going on to Avalanche L1s, these are custom chains anyone can deploy on Avalanche. As you guys alluded to earlier, with the new network upgrade, we've both reduced the cost to deploy an L1. Right now, it's like, I think maintenance for infra is like in the hundreds of dollars a month, and also the time to deployment. We're also partnering up with various blockchain as a service partners. You can think of it as similar to like how Conduit or Caldera supports L2s today, to make sure to enable, especially the enterprise partners, right, that may be less technical, to allow them to more easily deploy L1s on Avalanche. So why would someone choose an L1 Avalanche versus just deploying a dApp on the C chain? There are certain use cases where they need compliance built in, for instance. So a lot of the banks, asset managers, traditional funds we work with, they really gravitate towards this point because regulatory compliance is, usually top of mind for them. And then in terms of performance, we also see a lot of, gaming chains or high through any use case that requires high throughput deploy their own chain because they're not constrained by the same block space, right, that you occupy on the C chain with every other dApp. So for us, there's definitely a niche of projects as well as partners that for them, C chain might not even be an option, where they need control over their deployment environment, and then with Avalanche they're able to do so pretty easily. And this is just a little bit more. This is just an example of an architecture for a chain. This one is a bit more institutional leaning, as you can see from like the compliance and user provision on the top left. But I'll go through it. Starting with the middle. So this is the middle part is what you'll see on most Avalanche L1s. You have your application layer. So that's where your smart contracts will be deployed. That includes tokens, dexes, if you want like an NFT marketplace, whatever you want basically here, right? And then in the middle, you have these things called stateful precompiles that essentially make adjustments to the EVM at the virtual machine level. So one of the stateful precompiles that's used is this compliance or whitelisting precompile, where we can plug in different KYC providers, and they can provide access to the chain depending on any sort of custom rule set. And then each L1 chain is also connected to the other chains on Avalanche through a messaging protocol called ICTT, which I'll cover, I think, on the next slide. And then, of course, the validator nodes, as with any chain Avalanche, are managed on the P chain. And then from there, you can kind of plug in any sort of infrastructure or service provider. If you need custody like BitGo or Fireblocks, you can add that in. If you need custom oracles from Chainlink or Pyth, you can also enable that. So all in all, I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's a very flexible architecture. You can go with the typical L1 EVM SDK we have, or you can build your own chain from scratch. So this just covers ICTT in more detail. I won't get into like the full flow, but the main messaging here is that ICTT enables token transfers between chains. So all you need to do is set up a very lightweight relayer that connects your chain via the P chain to other chains on Avalanche. And then you can send tokens basically back and forth between any chain on Avalanche. This allows for a native interoperability on the chain without introducing other trust assumptions. The only trust assumption is you trust the validators on the P chain to validate the interchain messaging, and that's about it. It's lightweight. The only costs are really the gas costs between the two chains you're messaging between, and then eventually I think we'll see third parties deploy relayers and maybe charge fees on top, but still early days. So excited to see this all play out.
I have a quick question for you, actually. So with regards to the different sectors, I feel, Eric, like every chain really just needs one single strong use case. So for example, Tron, as you guys know, has USDT. It uses Tether, and it's a huge like transactional chain for people in Africa and Southeast Asia, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like the gaming sector could be so massive. You know, obviously GameFi has been struggling for the past year. You guys have Gunzilla, Off the Grid, you have Shrapnel, you have some of the greatest games. Do you guys feel like that can be a bit of a turning point? And by the way, this is not financial advice, but I've always said, and I've said this for the past year and a half, that AVAX is the most undervalued token in the top 50 by market cap. But do you guys really think that gaming is going to be, all of a sudden, there's going to be this crazy asymmetrical use of the Avalanche network when one of these games manage to achieve what it wants to achieve?
Yeah, we definitely think so. There's a huge potential in gaming for Web3. So when we started back in 21 and on the ecosystem growth side, we focused on DeFi because that's, you know, you need proper on-chain liquidity to pretty much do anything in crypto. But then we invested very heavily into gaming. And this, again, right, this was like 3-4 years ago when we started the journey. A lot of the gaming projects, at least the very high quality ones, the AAA publishers, for instance, they need time to build the games. I don't know if you guys are gamers here, but I think everyone's been waiting on the next GTA for almost a decade now, or more than a decade now. So it just goes to show you how much, you know,
I'm in pain, Eric. I'm gonna buy the PS5 just for GTA, bro.
I told the team you won't be seeing me for the week after GTA launches, but we have. So luckily, you know, we went about this path, you know, a couple of years ago. Some of these major titles, right, are just starting to come into beta, come out of beta. So there's a few games to watch out for. Off the Grid, they just had their open public launch a couple weeks ago, and so far they've onboarded 10 million plus players to Avalanche. And then we also have a very large release with Nexon for their new MapleStory game coming up, I believe, this quarter. So they're coming. They're coming.
Thanks so much. And I'd love to bring in Daniel and Brevi if you guys want to comment on some of the things that maybe you want to share your own perspective on why you're so, you know, you believe in this ecosystem so much.
Yeah, of course. I can start. You were saying at first that you guys, you know, your roadmap hasn't changed since 2019, and I think that shows, you know, conviction and also, you know, very clear idea of where the world is going. And it really resonates with me because I think Avalanche has been very, very similar. You know, many chains have been trying to scale vertically or horizontally recently, but Avalanche has been trying to do both from the very beginning. You know, it was born with this consensus mechanism that allowed for super fast transactions as well as, you know, a very, very wide validator set, a limited essentially validator set, but also with an architecture that kind of was planning for L1s from the very beginning. And now we are on an inflection point where, you know, launching an L1 is going to be as easy, I think, in you know, maybe months, as easy to launch as a, say, you know, a ERC20 token. Maybe, you know, the same way that people are launching pump.funds, people are going to be launching L1s. You know, maybe we'll have you know, Trump chain soon, like where you pay gas fees with Trump, but also, you know, like I think there's the cool thing about Avalanche is that it has a space for everything. You know, it's like the everything chain in a way where, you know, institutions can tailor like all these L1s to be super specific, but degens can also play around with all sorts of Ponzi-nomics and you know, make really, really fun things, you know, whether it's a gaming chain, whether it's a degen chain, you know, it's all like on the plate on Avalanche. And I think that's like what's really cool. So yeah, just wanted to kind of, I think that's my impression. I guess a short overview of Avalanche. I don't know if you want to add anything, Brevi.
I love that, Daniel. I just wanted to say that I love that you're sticking to your guns and you're really going in the same direction. There are some people that all of a sudden they pivot and now I'm an AI chain, you know, just to fit the narrative. So sticking with that belief and conviction is very important. Go for it, Brevi, brother.
I was just going to say, like, as far as my concern, it's about bringing as many people onto the Web3 kind of platforms as possible. And when I think about like the technology stack that Avalanche has kind of provided, it's second to none. When I think about pushing technology forward, I feel like, and this might be controversial, I feel like the other way that we've thought about scaling where applications are on one blockchain and they're all using the same block space. It doesn't really make sense to me from a perspective of someone who has used Web 2 before. And if I wanted to buy a new shoe on Nike, then that doesn't really affect if I wanted to, let's say, buy GTA 6. But in Web 3, with a lot of these different kind of scaling solutions, there is this kind of network effect that happens. And we saw this with the last kind of bull market where there was the huge NFT craze. And me personally, I paid over $200 in gas fees just to buy one NFT during this craze. Now, if we're talking about scaling this to the masses, we want every single person in the entire world using this thing. That's not possible, dude. It's just not possible. My mom isn't going to pay $200 so that she can buy something on Amazon, when she's used to paying a little bit of tax and then moving on with her life. And so when I was introduced to the tech stack, I used to be a Terra Luna Maxi back in the day. But when I was introduced to the tech stack by Stephen Gates and like the rest of the Google Pool team, it completely blew my mind at this kind of notion of horizontal scaling, where we have all of these entire blockchains operating basically as like this one huge ecosystem that they can just kind of like feed and interact with each other. And I think that's more so the future, and that's more kind of in line with where I see kind of everything taking us, right? Where someone can transact on, let's say, the SwissBorg L1 and it not affect the transactions that are happening on, let's say, off the grid, the Goons L1, because you can't have it to where if SwissBorg has this large kind of influx of users, that's almost seen as like a negative thing as far as like transaction fees and like actually transacting on the chain is concerned. We want as many people in this thing as possible, and I feel like Avalanche has the best technology to do that.
That's amazing.
That kind of goes back to what you were saying, Daniel, in terms of scaling, right? Horizontally and vertically, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have the fastest chains and also the most chains across all ecosystems, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I'm really not bullish on, for example, the gaming protocol that's going to have all the games in the world on it. I really believe in the model where the games will want to accrue that value themselves. I mean, it's very obvious, right? Like when you're launching a game and you're working so hard, spending so much money, as you said, Eric, to build something really cool, why not get all the value from it and do it on Avalanche rather than using someone else's protocol? So I really like that vision. It makes sense in terms of scalability a lot as well. Awesome. Eric, I think you have a meeting in 7 minutes. So do you want to give your last message? And then Daniel and Brevi, if you guys can stay a little longer for the Q&A after that. I don't know if you guys have plans.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess if there's one takeaway, right? Avalanche is the best place to deploy your own L1 chain. I like Daniel's analogy about pump.fun. I was actually told not to use that analogy after all the stuff started surfacing. But it really is that simple. You can go on avacloud.org, for instance. I think it's .org, but let me check on the URL. But you can go on AvaCloud, which is a one-click chain deployment site. You can literally launch a DevNet in 5 to 10 minutes. So it's really that simple. And if anyone out there is thinking about launching their L1 chain, don't know where to start or need support, you guys can always reach out to myself, Daniel, Brevi, or anyone on the team. We're always happy to help.
And so, as we said, there is a big opportunity right now to build a Netflix on chain. And for that, if there is any listener that is already getting started, they can just reach out to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Eric, thanks so much for your time, buddy. We look forward to touring with you, doing many cool things with you in the future, meeting you at Token 24/9. We'll do some cool stuff. And yeah, I really appreciate your insights.
Yeah, likewise. A lot coming. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Eric.
Right.
Thank you so much for swinging by.
Awesome. So, gentlemen, Daniel and Brevi, can we bring you back in like 20 minutes for a Q&A? So everyone watching out there, SwissBorg family, AVAX, Avalanche ecosystem family, stay tuned for the end. Luckily, we can bring in Brevi and Daniel back for some Q&A. Is that cool, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Of course.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. All right, so let's bring back the slides. So, guys, up until now, you have seen MEX versus SEX. You have seen why Avalanche to become the first multi-chain MEX on the planet. And so, without further ado, to give more perspective, it's also important that we compare what the MEX is relative to a DEX, because that is also different. And here we're taking Jupiter, and you'll see why in the next slide. But here we go. Before we jump into the specifications, Nicolas, do you have any comments on the MEX versus DEX or just SwissBorg, Jupiter, anything you wanted to share?
No, look, I was very excited by that technical discussion that we just had. And what's interesting after also to see is that, like, you know, we've talked about Solana in the past because it's the first chain that we integrated. But all those technical details and that conversation that we have with people from Avalabs shows that, like, Solana is not alone. There's other ecosystems that are building, and Avalanche is very solid. And so it would be very difficult now if we were in position to make a choice, right? I would know, like, you know, do I need to choose Solana? Do I need to choose Avalanche when you can have both, right? I wouldn't want that.
That makes so much sense. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nicolas. I'm also super bullish, right? I really feel like, you know, Avalanche, you know, if off the grid really does well, the amount of UWAs, unique wallet addresses that will connect to their chain is going to blow all the DApp radar, you know, uses and all the websites and all the on-chain metrics. And I think, once again, I think Avalanche is, a lot of people are kind of sleeping on it. But yeah, as you guys can see here, so we're using Jupiter as an example. Now, please do not take this as us thinking we're better than Jupiter or anything like that. Jupiter is an amazing DEX aggregator on Solana. They're actually friends of ours. We know Cash. But this is a great way for people to truly understand what the MEX is, right, Nicolas? It's just a reference. So
That's right.
the first category here, guys, is we used to be a meta exchange, but now SwissBorg is a multi-chain MEX. And what that means is we're aggregating FX, SEX, and DEX, while Jupiter, as of today, is a Solana DEX aggregator. Is that correct, Nico?
That is very correct.
Fantastic. Yeah, go for it, buddy.
Yeah, no, it's just that, like, we're building at a level that is bigger than that, in a sense that, like, we can access more liquidity and offer more, right? I would say we're still in a world where, like, you know, investing goes through going through fiat, and having this built in SwissBorg and not having to worry about on which chain it is very important.
Absolutely. And I think that NASDAQ 2.0 dream that Cyrus was mentioning in the video earlier is pretty much that ultimate liquidity layer that goes through everything, right? And so that's a really good point. We do have access to more liquidity than a DEX aggregator. Obviously, you guys can see here we're multi-chain. So we have Solana and Avalanche. Right now, Jupiter is on Solana. I heard there are rumors of them building on Ton. I'm not too sure, Nicolas, but yeah, obviously everyone, the big players know that we're going in the same route, and competition is always good, right, Nico?
100% is like the team of Jupiter has been absolutely amazing, as you say, and you see that, like, well, we're in the smart order routing, the two of us. We're going through a different path, but they've been going fast. They had, like, amazing success on Solana. They pushed. We have the same ethos in the sense of, like, we care a lot about our users, our community, about the UX. We want to make crypto accessible to everybody. They're doing it on-chain and on Solana, non-regulated. We took a different approach. We're regulated, and then now we are going to be cross-chain, FX, and so on and so forth. So it's just like it's a different architecture, but, like, you see that, like, as we're progressing in our journey, there's a lot of things that are getting similar between the two, right? Obviously.
That's very, very well explained. And so, guys, in terms of the smart order routing technology, as you can see here, the MEX has 16 FX, 16 fiat currencies, 5 SEXs, now 2 chains, 7 DEXs. And you can see here that the DEX aggregation from Jupiter has 50 plus Solana DEXs. Most of them don't have that much liquidity. I think if you have 6, 7, that's probably enough for 90% of the liquidity. When it comes to the tokens itself, you can see here, guys, that the Borg token is only at a $380 million valuation, while the Jupe token is at $10 billion fully diluted valuation. So there's definitely some asymmetrical play here. It's a times 30 if we reach one day the market cap of Jupiter. In terms of AUM, TVL, total value lock, you can see that Jupiter has $2.6 billion of TVL, and within the SwissBorg app, we have roughly $2.2 billion. When it comes to the launchpad, this is an interesting one, Nicolas, because obviously Jupiter has launched bigger projects, but they also launched them at bigger valuations.
That's
so
right.
the ROI is actually we launched BorgPad, which is kind of similar to LFG, right? And as you guys can see here from the 3 BorgPad launches that we did on chain via Solana, we have a better ROI than Jupiter, which is crazy, right?
So as you say, we have a lot of similarity, but there are also some substantial differences. And as I said earlier in our discussion, there is this SwissBorg 3-act way, and this is like the path that we've chosen. And most of the projects that are with us start as like an alpha. They go on BorgPad so that like we can help us those project launch a token, because as we say now, like there's more and more people out there building, but they don't necessarily have like the financial knowledge on how to launch a token, and it's getting harder and harder. And so this is the thing, is like we're looking at great team that like excel in their domain so that they can build the greatest product, and we're here to help them launch their token and make this a success for the best of their community. And so we help them also, make sure that they don't fall in the trap of like, what can be heard on Twitter and everywhere else, and that is the sex way. And here we are here to evangelize the better than sex. And so BorgPad is our positioning on helping this.
Very, very well put. And the last point here, which is an extremely important point for the future, is the fact that SwissBorg is regulated and licensed. Why is this so important, guys? It's because there are already some big legal frameworks out there that have already mentioned that DEXs will be regulated, will require KYC. And obviously Jupiter has much more trading volume, but when you don't have to do KYC and you don't have any geographic limitations, of course the trading volume will be much higher. And I can tell you guys that this is going to be constricted. There's going to be consolidation because once you have to do KYC with a DEX, and you don't necessarily have the fiat or the FX or stuff like that, I think the balance will kind of rebalance. Is that correct, Nicolas, in the future?
Yeah, 100%. We saw that there is a lot of actors that are already leaving Europe because of regulation.
Yeah.
And SwissBorg is a European actor, and we are making everything possible so that like we have the best regulation set up. And this is going to be a key to continue to support our community the best way, right? And this is the thing to have like crypto become mainstream, that like you're gonna need to work with the regulators. You can't avoid them forever. And 2025 is a big year for regulation in Europe, as it's the MiCA framework that is coming in force. And so, yeah. We'll see how things going to fall in place. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much for that. And just to give everyone a brief overview, now look at this. This is actually the real size of the difference in valuations between Jupiter and SwissBorg. As you guys just heard, there are many factors that really position SwissBorg to do extremely, extremely well, not just with the in-app utilities of the Borg token, but the on-chain utilities, especially with this multi-chain approach, which you can imagine the universe will grow everywhere. We have a Borg assembly at the end of the month, so we'll talk more about the tokens within those Borg assemblies and the new milestones. But yeah, anything to say here, Nicolas? Or?
Yeah, no, it's just that like I feel like a lot of people haven't sensed yet the importance of the thing that like we're doing on chain, especially with BorgPad, because like now one thing to highlight is that every new token that is doing a TGE with BorgPad is also launching liquidity pools with Borg. and we know on how this is like of utter importance for liquidity. And so this is a system that, like, when I was talking about open finance earlier and things that like we can't do on SEX, is like no one would have allowed us to do that. And now, because we're building in this open system, we can try to build something that is new, that has not been done before. And now you can have like the Borg token that is multi-chain and that is a pivot pair for trading pairs. And that's super important.
It's going to be beautiful. We're going to burn it. We're going to lock tokens up forever on the liquidity pads, on the liquidity pools. I'm very, very bullish. But once again, guys, if you want to hear more about the Borg, we have the Borg Assembly, and we'll have some really cool updates during the roadshow. So if we can take all this together, Nicolas, and summarize everything we've said, we have the MEX, which once again stands for the Meta Exchange. What is it as of today? It's 16 fiat currencies, 5 SEXs, 7 DEXs, and 2 blockchains. So it's a multi-chain MEX.
And counting.
And counting, guys, and counting. And essentially, guys, we're very proud. It really gives me goosebumps when I'm telling this to you right now, guys. But the promise that you saw in the video that was filmed in 2019 is coming to fruition. We are building the NASDAQ 2.0. Are you excited, Nicolas, or what?
100%. In 2019, it was impossible to describe what it is, but now it feels like you're getting there. We're going to be able to touch it. And I'm very excited about that.
And I feel like we're on a streak, Nicolas. I can see you with the tech team. I feel like we're on a streak. It has those early 2021 vibes. I don't know why.
100%. It's like, we've building like crazy. As like the meme went on Twitter for quite a while, you're going to need a bigger ball for January. There's a lot of news that are going to come. And I can tell you, like with Alex, we're working nonstop.
Secret. All right. So just to show for everyone who didn't really follow what happened with Solana, I think, Nicolas, it's really important that we just don't talk about theory, but we show numbers to show how valuable the MEX has been already in the last year. And so far, what we can say, guys, and other than DEXs, which is really crazy. Obviously, DEXs, you can list as many tokens as you want. But other than DEXs, isn't that crazy, Nicolas, that we're the largest exchange in the world for Solana tokens already, thanks to the batch listing and what you guys are doing with the tech team?
And we're only getting started. As you can see, guys, like there is about like 10 tokens that are coming in the catalog every week, but this is just us going at slow pace. What you probably don't realize is that like since October, there's a large amount of engineers that is working on accelerating the building of the biggest catalog there is out there. This is our ambition. And so that like, when we're talking about like cross-chain, this is it. It's like we can access as much liquidity as possible across the crypto ecosystems. And all those tokens that exist can now be available in the app so that like, it's easy for you to have like a central place where you can access all the investment universe. And based on that, then we'll be able to build more logic, which means that like the entire investment universe from SwissBorg, from like the thematic, from like the earn, the alpha, everything is going to get much richer and deeper because we can access so many more things.
Amazing. So all the Solana fans out there, please share with your family and friends. We have more Solana ecosystem tokens than Binance, Coinbase, and any other centralized exchange out there, which is amazing in such a short amount of time. Yeah. But don't trust just our sayings. And let's look at the numbers.
Do you mind also just saying like how much money we took out of the Solana ecosystem for all those listings? Like how much have like all those projects taken out? It's zero. And it's just because like, again, we want to put like an open ecosystem and make it available for everybody. And that is a key differentiator. Not only we have like the biggest catalog, we're also not extracting value for the projects. When they're coming to SwissBorg is to help them. And we're building together. We're making this is a positive. It's not like a net negative.
Exactly, Nicolas. And for all the Avalanche ecosystem fans out there, look at these numbers so you can be inspired on what potential there is going to come on the Avalanche chain. Once again, we're taking all that value that the centralized exchanges are greedily keeping for themselves with all these private order books and all these malpractices and bringing it back to where it deserves, which is on chain in the DeFi world. So just quick numbers, 85 tokens from the Solana ecosystem were listed within the SwissBorg app, $0.6 billion
December 1st. So in the last 2 months.
in the last 2 months. Crazy. So we're going to be the biggest exchange in the world eventually, right? For buying tokens, Nicolas, is that the goal?
Yes, 100%. This
Largest
is like the
catalog in the
vision.
world?
Largest catalog in the world.
Fantastic. And so you guys can see here, $0.6 billion of on-chain volume and $150 million of that trading volume was since January 1st. Within the past 20 days alone, 1/4 of that is basically happened this soon because of all these listings recently. We also did $8 million of funding for Solana ecosystem projects, whether they came through Alpha or BorgPad. 20% of our current transactions are actually going through the smart order routing on chain. And I must say, one of my favorite metrics, which we saw also in the video earlier, Nicolas, is all this happens in less than 5 seconds. Instead of these crazy bridges that cost
This
money,
is what we
that
said.
scare the
It's
hell
like,
out of me.
we're building all that, but we won't compromise on the UX. This is key for us, right? Everybody that is coming to crypto needs to have like an experience that is smooth, easy, and fast.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. So there are some really clear numbers. And without further ado, Nicolas, is it time to demonstrate the beast?
Exactly. Let's see what we've built.
Okay. Is everyone ready? Let's go. Let's have a look. So we're going from Swedish krona. Is that correct, Nicolas?
Yes, we've chosen Swedish Corner as like, who else can offer you that, right?
Nobody.
So you go from Swedish Corner, you have like the classical user interface of SwissBorg, same user experience, same everything. And here, what happened? You went from fiat to a token on-chain on Avalanche that is called Colony. Fantastic project that have been builder from like the first day on Avalanche, has been supporting the ecosystem, and we're very happy to have it here.
Look at this, guys. We went from Swedish kroner, which was swapped into euros, which was sent to Kraken, the SEX, which bought USDT. Then the USDT was sent from Kraken to Binance, bought some AVAX. And the AVAX went to LFJ and executed on the Avalanche chain to buy Colony.
Yeah. And now it's just like, think for a second, if there was no SwissBorg, how would you do that? How would you go from like your Swedish kroner to the Colony token?
Oh
Here,
my God.
it took 4.6 seconds.
Woo!
Woo.
There you go, guys. That's the NASDAQ 2.0, right, Nicolas?
100%. Here we are.
And what's even crazier, Nicolas, right, is that we have an even crazier demo. Something that even I didn't know until last week.
And so as SwissBorg smart engine is that like the promise is that you can swap anything versus anything at best price. And so as you understand, you can now have like Solana tokens and Avalanche tokens. And so you can seamlessly swap between two. And so now for doing cross-chain exchange, super easy.
And here we go, guys. Let's look at this execution, this route. Even for our good friends out here, I see Julianas, I see Stomach, I see Ore, I see lots of friends who are probably used to Smart Engine. Look at this transaction.
So we start with a meme coin on Solana that is called USA. A lot of you traded it over the last days. We saw amazing volume on it. And now you're like, oh, but Google Pool is this amazing DeFi project on Avalanche. And here you can swap it in a single click. And that goes with trading on the first DEX, that is Radium, that is on-chain on Solana. You go on Orca to go to USDT. And then through Binance, you went from USDT to AVAX and AVAX to Google Pool in like 4.9 seconds. Still, as you said, Alex, less than 5 seconds. And all is done.
Let me summarize, guys, what just happened. So we went once again from a Solana meme coin that went through Radium DEX, that went through Orca DEX, that went through Binance, and it went then through the Avalanche DEX LFJ. Now, just for everyone to understand, this is the fastest cross-chain and bridging transaction that I've ever seen in crypto. And I don't even know, is there a bridge from Solana to Avalanche that can?
So there are various bridges, right? You can use wormhole and things like that, but it's going to be more complicated. You're going to have like settlement times that are several minutes, and you're going to have to go through USDC, which here you can notice that like we are not doing. And so the point of that is that like not only it's fast, but it's also the way to get the best price. And I very insist on that. It's like when you click at show details and you see the route, sometimes it's things that are super complicated and people being like, why is SwissBorg making things so complicated while it was very simple? The thing is that like your very simple route, you didn't get as much outcome that like you would with our smart engine, because our smart engine is literally scanning this entire liquidity and finding the most optimized route so you get the maximum outcome. And this is really the value. You get so much in so little time.
It's incredible. It's truly incredible to be able to bridge cross-chain at that speed. Once again, guys, under 5 seconds. The fastest bridge I've seen on Solana was 1 minute with dBridge. It was roughly 60 seconds. So this is the fastest I've ever seen in my life, Nicholas. I'm so proud of what you guys have built.
Amazing.
All right. There we go. So that is very exciting. Now, the next thing we're asking ourselves, we need to not just make this look cool. We need to act as soon as possible, right, Nicolas? So list as many, start the listing right away.
All of you participated in some alpha deals with SwissBorg. We wish to make this happen a little bit earlier, but here we are. It's finally available, and you can have like Gogo Pool and Colony Labs that were 2 alpha deals at SwissBorg, because it's 2 projects that like we deeply believe they're core participants in the Avalanche ecosystem and are fundamental to the success of that chain. And we're very happy to support and have the token that is tradable in our app. And of course, Avalanche has tons of other fantastic ecosystems and projects, and those are coming. And so we're just going to leave the logo here. Some people might guess, but so far it's a secret. It's coming.
We're looking forward to it. We already have AVAX as well. We already have Joe as well, right? So that would make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, already 7 tokens from the Avalanche ecosystem within a week time, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, guys. So you had it here. We're already acting. We're not just talking. We really want to bring that value as soon as possible. And as you guys can see here, we are creating the NASDAQ 2.0 by bringing this beautiful world together where anyone from an 18-year-old to an 80-year-old can literally transact where value should be accrued, which is on-chain, and making the beautiful public and open decentralized finance of tomorrow. I am super, super bullish. We have time for a quick Q&A, Nicolas. Should we bring our friends back on board maybe for like 15 minutes?
Absolutely. I'm here to answer all your questions.
Can we bring Brevi, our brother Brevi, back here? And then if we can bring
Daniel Brevi, so excited to have you again here.
No problem at all, my friends. Love the video. Love what I'm seeing. Dude, like I don't know. I've tried like bridging between Solana and AVAX, and it took forever, dude.
It took more than 5 seconds, right?
Oh, way more than 5 seconds.
Yeah, I love it. Go ahead. I was gonna say I love the solution. I think I was really impressed when Eric told me about it. Because it's like the best. It's like you bring the UX of a DEX, of a SEX, and all the possibilities of a DEX kind of together. So I feel like people go to DEXs because they want more tokens, they want to degen more, or maybe they don't have liquidity for something in a DEX, in a SEX. But most people still stay in SEXs, and that's not because fees or because order execution. That's because it's easy. Still to this day, setting up a wallet, it's a bit of a pain, and you are kind of bridging that, and also driving up all the on-chain volumes, on-chain transaction, on-chain activity, and users are just like feeling like, you know, they are just like they are in a sex getting the best price as well. So I was really impressed.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And that was a very hard decision to make, right? Because in the beginning, we thought we'd position ourselves as just having, you know, the blue chips, you know, like Avalanche and Joe, for instance, right? And not taking too much risk. But then we thought that's probably an offering that most banks will offer eventually, or the fintech apps. And we thought, just as you said, Daniel, it's exactly what you said. We thought, listen, we should open up the entire ecosystem. If we have to list all of the Avalanche tokens, and some will not survive, some will eventually go bankrupt and die. But if that's what the DEX people want and the people from the CeFi world want, then we have to follow and pivot based on what the demand is, right? And not just focus on what we think the future should be like, right?
Yeah, it's like you guys were thinking one step ahead. Like I imagine in 2019, like we're like, let's launch our own sex, like everyone launching the same thing kind of thing. And you were thinking, okay, there's gonna be a lot of sexes, there's gonna be a lot of on-chain things. Let's create a layer on top and get everything routed through us. And it just is powerful.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So I'm seeing some questions pop in, guys. It says the first one is from Robert. Okay, you can bring that back in. So Chris, thanks for coming, brother. Will SwissBorg build their own blockchain on Avalanche? Oof, that's not a question for me. Anything tech related, Nicolas will kick me in the nuts.
So look, we kind of like typically touched it in the introduction, because like, you know, we're saying that like a lot of companies are building their own chain, and typically it kind of then bias them, because they're like, you know, the corporate system makes it that like they need to bring all the projects on their blockchains, and typically we believe that like an open world and the decentralization doesn't happen this way. So at the moment, rather than trying to bring everything into a private silo, we're taking the opposite approach with SwissBorg, and we're like, just build an open blockchain. Wherever you are, we'll come and we'll pick your liquidity. And so this is the thing, is like, rather than trying like what those guys are doing, you know, that is like my blockchain, my protocol, my everything, SwissBorg, we're like, yeah, hey, DeFi is all about building a giant Lego, if you wish.
Yeah.
And SwissBorg is the aggregation layer on top of that. And so if you're on a public blockchain, well, we'll come.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. And once again, as Nico is saying, the philosophy is we really have to build, you know, help the Avalanche ecosystem, help the projects, because as you're saying, everything needs to be interconnected, right, Nicolas? And what we're doing here is crazy.
Like, we're not playing zero-sum game, right? Our point is not to extract maximal value, but it's create a new world, a new ecosystem, a new paradigm. This is why we're all about blockchain. If blockchains are just here to recreate what like TradFi is, using a different technology, this is not what I signed up for.
Yep, that's a really good answer. Harry, question: how will AVAX tell their 1 million followers about the smart engine? Thank you. People are. This guy was paid to ask this question, by the way, Breevy.
Had to be. Well, yes, sir. All right, so I'm Ava Labs senior social media manager. So I actually help run this 1 million follower account. So I can actually talk a little bit about the plans. For one thing, we have this amazing space that we did, stream that we did today, where you folks got all these super nicely produced videos and all this like amazing marketing tactics that I love. Hats off to the SwissBorg team for this. We also got to see you just bridge. I forgot the specific name of the currency.
Swedish kroner.
Taking that currency to a token in like 5 seconds. 5 seconds is absolutely huge. So we want to highlight that as much as we possibly can. So we'll be doing a live stream tomorrow from the AVAX account. It's going to start at 12 p.m. EST, 12 p.m. EST live on the AVAX account. So make sure you folks come to that. And if you have more questions about Avalanche or about what SwissBorg is building, make sure you come with those questions as well.
Yeah, that's a really good question. What are the next steps for this collab? What can the SwissBorg community look forward to? Ooh, that's a nice one. Well,
yeah,
I guess.
so
integrating more dexes, or maybe one more dex in the future, Nicolas? Am I revealing too much?
Yeah, so you're not revealing too much, but it's just that, like, basically, the playbook that we experimented on Solana, now we're bringing it full speed on Avalanche. And so, like, you already saw that, like, we said that the two first tokens that we listed are some that were in alpha deals. And basically, as you see, SwissBorg has built various verticals where we're capable now of investing in tokens that are in specific ecosystems, helping them on their TGE, and then releasing the token within the app, and all that is going to continue. So what you can expect, well, you already know what we're doing, and more of everything of that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more alpha, more earn, more trading, and more of
More
investment
BorgPad
within,
and other
more
things.
BorgPad, more everything with
More
Avalanche.
everything. So
More
guys, we
everything.
cannot reveal too much, but you can imagine that, we want to bring as much value as possible to the Avalanche ecosystem. So just think of all the range of products we have, and that's going to be in an absolutely new world. So there's so many opportunities. And as Nicolas said, we would love to launch an Avalanche ecosystem DApp and token. So help them raise funds, play the incubator, the accelerator, and launch.
And it's those kind of things of, like, integrating with Avalanche seed chain is not something that, like, was just lightly decided. Is the result of a long journey where we've watched the ecosystem. We know that it's rock solid. We know the technology. We know the projects. And so I said there has been 2 alpha deals with that. In the earn program at the moment, you can restake with Suzaku. That is, I put it in the slides earlier. It's their leading system, so that, like, you can launch L1 super easily. And we're going to continue to do that.
Very well said. There's a question about stables, USDN. So USDN, I guess it's one of the popular stables on the Avalanche ecosystem.
Brevi Daniel, can you help me with USDN?
Is that one of the synthetic decentralized?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I've never heard of USDN.
Yeah, so you get your answer. We'll for sure look into that. But this one is getting us off guard. We don't know.
The little silence of. This is for you, friends. What projects are Avalanche pushing? Gaming, DeFi. I don't know if pushing is the right word, but I'll let you.
Yeah, I would say make us dream about Avalanche. What are, like, the things that, like, you're super excited at the moment? Drop us some name. We know some app that might be interested in listing them.
On my end, I've been saying this for like years now. I'm super excited for gaming. Like, I believe that, Avalanche is the best chain for gaming. Specifically, we're talking about, like, if you want to build yourself a layer 1, like, fully customized to the exact needs that your specific game needs. It's going to be absolutely huge. When Avalanche first started pushing this, I knew that, for one thing, that we were thinking long term, right? We're not a company that's just only thinking about the here and now. We're definitely thinking more about what's going on in the future. And that's very apparent when you think about how much they are, as they said, pushing gaming to the masses, right? Because when you think about the gaming kind of industry, it moves slow. Like, earlier we had an example of GTA 6. We're waiting on that for a decade, but I'll do you one better and show you how old I am. I waited for StarCraft 2 for over a decade. Yeah, Nicholas knows. But, for the people out there, just kind of shows how kind of slow things kind of move in that specific ecosystem. But then Avalanche deciding to actually pay attention to it. And then now we have games like Off the Grid that are released. And we're talking, like, this was one of the #1 games on Steam at one point in time, if not still currently. So we're seeing a lot of different, like, just regular traditional Web 2 gamers playing the game and streaming it. especially like streamers that I've been kind of watching since, like since I was a little bit younger. I've been watching Dr. Disrespect for a while, now. So it's been very interesting just to see kind of the gaming sphere kind of start to evolve on Avalanche with Off the Grid. But then there's so many more games that are coming that we can be excited about as well. Like Gunzilla, I'm super excited about as well. And that's more of like an extraction shooter. Come on in, go ahead and discover things. Go ahead and bring these things back, and then hope that you don't lose them in your next game. Like I've always kind of liked that that specific type of game. But yeah, on my end, gaming, we're talking Off the Grid, and that's going to be like absolutely huge.
Amazing. And Daniel, what are the projects that make you dream on Avalanche?
Yeah,
Give us some alpha, Daniel. Alpha.
Alpha.
In terms of projects, there is obviously lots of projects, lots of verticals. Really was talking about gaming. I'm gonna talk about AI because AI is a new vertical, and we are investing heavily on it, and we are like determined to become the AI chain. There is this grant program which is open to any builder. So if there is anyone listening, apply now. It's called Infrabuildable AI, and it's a 15 million program, and we announced just today that Aether, one of the largest compute providers, is partnering with us, and so to fast track every like Infrabuildable grantee to their own grant program. So it's like a collaboration between us. So what I mean by this is like we are trying to make Avalanche the best chain for AI builders, because obviously the chain also offers like a lot of optionality. You could launch L1s that are optimized for AI or all sorts of things.
I would think that this is a narrative that is relatively recent, and that it's not clear for a lot of people about like what does it mean to have like a blockchain optimized for AI. Would you mind giving a bit of color to that so that like we can really understand on like what's the vision here for Avalanche?
Yeah, let's imagine, very, very high level, imagine a chain where instead of, for everything you do, instead of using, how do you mean, Solidity or coding or anything to deploy a smart contract, you can just tell the chain, deploy this, and it will deploy it. Like a chain you interact with using natural language, for example, like a VM that's optimized for that, where, I don't know, the block is optimized for kind of synchronize with the processing of the AI. So it kind of stops here or and waits for this process to happen for these other two. I think high level, but it's just I think it's a powerful idea when you can imagine. Yeah, just a blockchain using natural language. But this is just one example, really. Like I cannot imagine many, but I am sure there are many. That's what I mean. And like the thing with Avalanche is you cannot imagine all the use cases that it can have because they are unlimited. So the limit is your imagination. So if anyone has better ideas, I will encourage them to submit an application.
Amazing.
Also, just to piggyback off of what Daniel said, there's no other chain out there that can do exactly what Avery did in a recent video, which was he launched a blockchain in like a minute by just simply type in, hey, launch a blockchain via Google Pool. Done. Done. And then using Google Pool's tech stack, you can actually fully decentralize that blockchain as well within minutes too. So it's
which is again like
alpha on one of our tokens, Nicola.
Yeah, big alpha here.
Big alpha.
Big alpha. And it's what we've been saying also is this kind of like what's absolutely amazing with Avalanche is this capacity now, like with Google Pool, Suzaku, this capacity of going through real decentralization and not just like a glorified multisig.
Yeah.
And I just want to
so it's not only easy and fast, but decentralized. And that's like I don't think we fully grasp it yet, but it's gonna be massive.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on one thing you said, Breevy, just to bring that back. And sorry for coming back to this topic, but this whole Web3 gaming on-chain UWA, so unique wallet addresses, I think that is the ultimate killer for Avalanche and the AVAX token in general, right? Like it's just one sector pops, and then the entire chain, I think all prices, like, what's not financial advice, I think AVAX is going to go through the moon. And then usually that bubble that's happening on the gaming side will hopefully help the entire ecosystem with price action, attract more users, attract more capital. But Breevy, when I look at stats today, and I see, for example, on Solana, which obviously had a really good week with Trump coin and Melania coin and stuff like that, they have roughly between 1 million UWAs on Pump.fun all the way to 2.75 million UWAs on Radium, and then maybe 1.5, 1.8 million UWAs on Jupiter. But I feel like gaming could really destroy those numbers, Breevy, right? We're not talking about 1, 2, 3 million. You're talking about a really big crowd once that happens. So cross fingers, guys. I would love to ask you one last message to go out to the community. So we don't want to keep you too long. I know you guys have been already super generous to join us here today, and I know you guys are super busy, but maybe one last message each, and then we'll slowly wrap up.
Yeah, I'm with it. Yeah, I was also just going to say specifically on what you're talking about with the gaming sphere, like whenever I think about the gaming sphere, I would just like to always point out to people, move slow. It's going to take some time, but what we're seeing with Off the Grid is a huge catalyst for growth here. Like because if I'm not mistaken, Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Off the Grid brought in somewhere around 1 million different unique wallet addresses. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No need correction.
That's perfect. Yeah. Perfect. And that's just one. When you look at the pipeline of like 60 different games that hopefully should be launching within the year or so, this thing is about to get like knocked off its head very, very soon. We're like Web3 gaming is going to be the new evolution of gaming for sure.
Just a matter of time, right? Go for it, Daniel. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I was gonna say the thing with Off the Grid is that you see all these wallets and you think the impact is isolated or limited, but they are on testnet as far as I know. Imagine what happens when everyone's skins suddenly are mainnet, when they have value, when people see that the gaming hours translate to items they can own. It's gonna be quite a revolution. But yeah, for my highlight, I just want to say that Avalanche is the everything chain. Whatever you're building, it can be built here, and you are not gonna find a better support for that anywhere else. And if you're just a normal user, try out the C chain, play around there, try out the L1s, and if you are too lazy, go to SwissBorg, use the MEX, and swap some Avalanche tokens, because that activity is gonna happen on the C chain anyway.
Thanks so much for that, Daniel. And I think you just pointed something really important. If you guys want to figure out which chain is thriving in the future, other than the quantitative side, a great qualitative side is just to ask people about their satisfaction as of today. So for instance, I've talked to Avalanche validators, I've talked to the dApps, I've talked to the token holders, I've talked to some DAOs, and everyone seemed extremely happy. And I think that is really what shows you what a thriving ecosystem is all about. Breevy, Daniel, thank you so much for your time. We'll let you guys go. Maybe Nicola, keep you here just for one last moment. Thank you so much, brothers. It was really great seeing you. And if you have any alpha, if we can support any of your projects in the future, whether it's fundraising, whether it's launching, whether it's listing, please do let us know.
Thank you.
For sure. Appreciate y'all for having us on. And for everyone out there, remember, live stream 12 p.m. EST tomorrow, folks.
Yes. We'll be there.
Thanks for that plug-in, Breevy. Thanks for the reminder. Tomorrow next, guys. Thank you so much, guys. All right, if we can go back to the slides, and we'll probably soon end this. Guys, thank you so much for staying with us for 1 hour and 40 minutes. I'm just going to bring back the slides. Can we bring back the slides? Can someone help here? There you go. So one last video that we'll watch together, guys, to end this beautiful session and this beautiful visual. By the way, we need to wallpaper this. Let's watch this all together.
Introducing the first of its kind, the new SwissBorg Meta Exchange. Multi-chain execution. Any crypto, any fiat, to any token. Trade freely across chains. Solana, Avalanche, and more to come. SwissBorg Meta Exchange. Multi-chain, cross-chain, no limits.
Final words, Nicolas. Oh,
goosebumps.
goosebumps. Final words, Nicolas.
I'm very excited about this move. We talked here. We had like quite some insights about the technicalities from the Ava Labs and all the Avalanche ecosystem. Big things coming here. I think this is now kind of showing people what we're capable of building. And we know what's coming next, Alex. The future is bright.
The future is bright, and this is actually not all of the excitement, right, Nicolas? We have a lot of tricks still up our sleeves.
We still have a lot of trick, and like you don't need to wait for a long time. There's more that is going to be revealed this week. So.
And guys who are interested in the Borg pad and obviously Borg on Avalanche, all this information will be coming during the roadshow. So please join us tomorrow on the X space. But also, if you can come join Cyrus and the team, they'll give you more specifics on the Borg token use cases within Avalanche, its future, its in-app utilities, everything like that. So thank you so much, Nicolas, for joining. It was a long chat, but it was definitely, I think, something we needed, right? For everyone to be aligned, not just internally, but the community to really realize that we're building the NASDAQ 2.0 with this multi-chain mix.
100%. Thank you so much, Alex. That was a great convo.
Thanks so much, everybody. We love you and see you soon.
See you soon. Cheers.